The widow in the tower. They said she was mad. Everyone in the alien city called her the widow in the tower. They said she talked to shadows, sang songs in a language no one understood, and whispered the name of a human who died many years ago. No one visited her. No one listened. No one cared. But Cadet Reed did. He was young, curious, and human. He had arrived at the alien colony just 3 weeks ago, part of a peacekeeping mission after the long human-alien war. The fighting was over, but the silence after war was heavy. There were secrets in that silence. Reed could feel it. He first heard of the widow in the mess hall. An alien officer laughed and said, "She lost her mind after her human husband died. Now she waits in the glass tower, calling to ghosts." Another one added, "She's dangerous. Stay away from her." That's why they locked her in the old city tower. But that made Reed more curious. Why did they keep her alive if she was mad? Why call her dangerous if she only spoke to ghosts? So one cold evening, when the city lights were low and the security patrol was weak, Reed walked toward the old glass tower. The tower stood alone near the edge of the alien city. It was tall, smooth, and cold like a needle of ice. It used to be an observatory once. Now it was a prison. Reed pushed the side door open quietly. No alarms, no guards. Just dust, silence, and a faint hum of power. He climbed the spiral stairs slowly, step by step, heart beating fast. At the top, he reached a circular room filled with soft blue light. And there, standing in the center, was the widow. She was tall, pale, and wore a long silver robe. Her skin shimmered like the night sky. She was not old, but her eyes looked ancient, tired, deep, and full of storms. She did not scream. She did not attack. She turned, looked at Reed, and whispered, "I was waiting for you." Reed froze. "You were." She nodded slowly. "A human. You are the first one they allowed near me. Or maybe you came on your own." Reed stepped closer, unsure. "Why do you ask for humans? Your husband, he died in the war." Her face tightened. "That's what they told you. That's what they told everyone. But it's true, right?" She walked to the window and pointed to the stars. "He was sent on a mission. Deep space. Secret orders. He found something. Then he disappeared. They said he was dead. But they never showed me his body. No funeral. No report. Just silence." Reed felt a cold chill run through his chest. What did he find? She looked back at him, eyes sharp now. A truth they want to bury. Something dangerous. Something only he knew. And now, I know it too. Reed swallowed. "But they say you're mad." She gave a sad smile. "That's what they say when they want to silence someone." They called him mad too. Just before he vanished. Reed looked at her, really looked. Her eyes were not wild. They were calm. Her words were clear. She wasn't crazy. She was broken. And angry. "You're telling the truth," Reed said quietly. She walked to a small metal box hidden in the corner and opened it. Inside was an old, dirty piece of human tech. A black disc, cracked, dusty, almost dead. "He gave me this," she said. "Told me to protect it. Told me to give it to someone who still believed in humans." She placed it in Reed's hands. "What is it?" he asked. "A key," she said. "To everything." Reed felt the weight of it in his palm. It didn't look like much, but something told him this was just the beginning. He turned to leave, but she stopped him. "They'll try to stop you. They'll call you mad too. But remember, he's not dead. They took him." Reed looked back at her. The widow in the tower. Maybe she wasn't mad. Maybe she was the only one brave enough to speak. And maybe, just maybe, he was the only one willing to listen. They said she was mad. But when Reed looked into her eyes, he didn't see madness. He saw memory. Not just pain or loss, but something deeper. Like her eyes were holding secrets too heavy for one mind to carry. The disc she gave him felt warm in his pocket. Almost alive. He hadn't told anyone about it. Not yet. Not even the AI supervisor at the outpost. Especially not the aliens who ran the peace mission. The next morning, the city looked normal. Peaceful. Calm. But Reed knew something was wrong under the surface. He walked past the market, the tall statues, the alien officers laughing like nothing was strange. But all he could think about was the way she looked at the stars and said, "They took him." Back at his quarters, Reed locked the door and pulled the old human disc from his coat. It was cracked and silent, but when he touched the edge, a flicker of blue light pulsed. "Still alive," Reed whispered. He linked it to his old combat wristpad. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the screen blinked. A voice, low, tired, full of static, spoke. "If you're hearing this, then I failed." Reed froze. They were hiding something. In the old war zones. Deep inside Sector Delta 9. "I don't know if I'll make it back. But if anyone finds this, tell her I didn't leave. They came for me." The message ended. Reed sat back, heart racing. The voice. It was calm, brave, human. It had to be him, the widow's husband. The one they said was dead. But he wasn't dead. He was hunted. Reed couldn't go back to the tower in daylight. Too many eyes. Too much risk. But he had to know more. He had to understand what she remembered. So he waited. When the twin moons rose, and the towers cast long shadows over the city, he slipped through the security gates again. Quiet, careful, fast. He climbed the spiral stairs of the tower once more. She was waiting, not surprised, not scared, just waiting. "You watched the message," she said. Reed nodded. He knew they were after him. She turned her face toward the glass. "He told me they would come for him, not because of what he did, but because of what he found." Reed stepped closer. What did he find? Her voice dropped lower, like the tower itself might be listening. Before the war ended, he was sent to Sector Delta 9. There were old ruins there. Not alien, not human, older. Reed frowned. "Ancient ruins? I never heard of that." She smiled sadly. "Because they erased it. They didn't want humans to know. He found proof that something else was here, long before us." Reed's skin crawled. "You mean, another race?" She nodded. "Something powerful. Something buried. He found tech. Energy readings. Symbols in both our languages. He said it changed how he saw everything." Reed's mind raced. Why would they cover that up? Because it showed the war was never between us. We were being pushed, controlled, by something older. She looked at Reed now, not with fear, but with hope. He said humans could see the truth better than we could. You feel things. You trust your instincts. That's why he trusted you. Reed stayed silent. The room felt heavier now. The stars outside the tower seemed closer. "They think I'm mad," she said. "But I remember every word, every secret. And now so do you." Suddenly, lights flashed below the tower. Red beams. Moving fast. Guards. "They're coming." Reed stepped back from the window. How did they know? The widow didn't panic. She walked to a hidden panel behind a wall. It slid open, revealing a narrow tunnel, dark and cold. "My husband made this path, in case I ever needed to run. Tonight, it's your turn." Reed hesitated. "Come with me." She shook her head. "Not yet. You must go first. Find the place he marked, Delta 9. Follow the voice. I'll meet you there, when it's safe." Reed grabbed the disc, gave her one last look, and then disappeared into the shadows. Outside, the guards rushed the tower. But the room was empty. No widow, no human, just silence. And the stars, blinking like they knew more than anyone was saying. They searched the tower all night, but they found nothing. Not the widow, not the human cadet, not the truth. Only silence, and the whisper of a name that no one dared to say anymore. Reed ran through the tunnels, heart thudding like a drum. Cold stone walls pressed in around him. The path was old, forgotten. Maybe only 2 people had ever walked it before, her and the man they said was dead. Now Reed carried his memory in his hand. The cracked black disc felt heavier than it looked. Not like metal, like memory. He emerged near the old shipyard. broken crafts, rusted frames, the bones of a war that never truly ended. There, under the shadows of twisted steel, Reed hid. He opened the disc again. No power. "Come on," he whispered. He pulled wires from his wrist pad and tried again. Sparks. A short hum. Then a flicker of light. The same voice spoke. Tired. Controlled. But more alive this time. "My name is Captain Ellis Kane. If you're human, if you're listening, they erased me. They think they won. But I left this behind." Reed held his breath. "I found something buried in Sector Delta 9. It's not alien. Not human. Something older. Something sleeping. And it's waking up." Static cut the message. Then a map appeared. A red mark blinked deep in a restricted zone. Lab 9, archive site. Beneath it, one word. Remember. Reed didn't understand it all. But one thing was clear. Ellis Kane, the so-called dead man, had found something dangerous. And powerful people didn't want that truth to escape. The device was proof. Reed knew he couldn't hide forever. So he went to the one person who might still help him. Commander Sarah Lynn was part of the Peace Council. Half human, half alien. Quiet, strict, but known for being fair. Reed had trained under her during war drills. She respected courage and truth. But even she was not ready for what he showed her. He placed the disc on her desk. It blinked. Played the message. She listened. Eyes narrowing. "Where did you get this?" Reed didn't lie. "The widow gave it to me." Sarah looked away. "She wasn't supposed to keep it." "So it's real?" Reed asked. "Everything he said?" She was silent for a moment, then spoke slowly. "There are layers to every war, cadet. The ones on the field, and the ones behind the curtain." Ellis Kane saw the curtain, and someone made sure it never opened again. Reed felt the weight of her words. "Why him?" "Because humans aren't bound to the old ways," Sarah said. "You question. You rebel. You remember." She slid the disc back to him. "If you go looking for Delta 9, they will come after you. You know that, right?" "I know," Reed said. She sighed. "Then go fast. And don't trust anyone wearing a polished badge." Reed left the city that night. No goodbye. No trail. Only the disc, the memory of a voice, and the map glowing on his screen. Sector Delta 9 was far, beyond the safe zones, past war-burned lands, deep inside alien territory where satellites went dark and maps turned to lies. He traveled in an old smuggler's pod, flying low, hiding under fake codes. Windstorms hit him, scanners blinked, and once he thought he saw a shadow following in the sky, but he kept moving, until the ground below him changed. Gray, dead, silent. He landed, and there it was, Lab 9. It was no longer a lab. It was a grave, shattered walls, melted steel, and under the dust, machines humming faintly, like they were still dreaming. Reed walked through the wreckage, guided by the blinking map. The disc warmed in his hand the closer he got. Then he saw it. A sealed door, cracked but still closed. A number burned into the metal. Subject H93. A control panel blinked. He held up the disc. The door unlocked. Steam hissed. Lights flickered. Inside was a pod. And inside the pod, a human. Face pale. Eyes closed. Wires in his head. Breathing barely. Reed's voice cracked. Captain Ellis Kane. He wasn't dead. He had been kept alive. Hidden. Forgotten. And just as Reed stepped forward, a red laser dot appeared on his chest. "Step away," a voice said behind him. "You weren't supposed to find him. They don't wear uniforms. They don't give names. They don't exist in public records. But everyone whispers about them. The Shadow Watchers. The ones who erase truth. And people." Reed didn't move. The red dot of the laser stayed on his chest. A voice behind him, cold and calm, spoke again. "Turn around. Slowly. Hands where we can see them." Reed raised his hands, heart pounding like thunder. His eyes stayed on the cryopod in front of him. Captain Ellis Kane was inside, alive, unconscious, and wired into machines older than anything Reed had seen. A second voice, female, sharper, spoke from the shadows. You weren't supposed to find this place, cadet. Reed turned. Two figures stood in the dark. Black armor, faceless masks, weapons silent and steady. No rank, no emblem, no light reflected off them. Just darkness. Who are you? Reed asked. The male voice replied, We're the ones who clean up the pieces when curious people poke their nose into old lies. Reed stepped back. He's not dead. You kept him like a lab rat. The woman tilted her head. And now you know, that's a problem. Reed's mind raced. He needed time. Options. Anything. Why him? Why hide a war hero? The man answered flatly, because he remembered too much. He asked the wrong questions. He saw the wrong things. The woman added, and now you've seen them too. They raised their weapons. But before they could fire, a loud hum shook the floor. The cryopod lit up. Lights. Warnings. Sparks. The pod was activating. No! The woman shouted. The link, he's waking up. Reed ran. Not away from the pod. Straight to the control panel. His fingers flew across the screen. He didn't know the language completely, but some commands were still in human code. Emergency release, active. Steam burst from the pod. The glass cracked, and slowly, a hand pushed against the inside. Then another. Reed stepped back as the pod hissed open, and out stepped Captain Ellis Kane. Weak, barefoot, but standing, his eyes opened slowly. One blue, the other glowing faint silver. He looked at the watchers. Still hiding in the dark. I see. They froze. Even they weren't ready for this. Reed whispered, Captain, do you remember who you are? Kane blinked, then nodded slowly. Not all of it, but enough. The watchers raised their guns. That's far enough. He comes with us. Kane didn't flinch. You'll have to try harder than that. The lights around the lab began to flicker. Reed looked around. What's happening? Kane answered calmly. The lab is linked to me. They used it to rewrite my mind. But now, it's listening to me again. The walls pulsed. Machines began to move. Screens came alive with symbols from long before either species had learned to fly. We have to go, Kane said. This place won't stay hidden anymore. The woman shouted, Stand down, or we erase you both. But the floor under her feet cracked. Then a blast of pressure knocked the watchers backward. Reed grabbed Kane's arm. This way. They ran through the side door as alarms screamed behind them. Outside, the world was dark and broken. But the stars above were still watching. And now, so was something else. Kane looked up at the sky, breathing hard. They're coming, Reed. The real ones. Reed swallowed. What do you mean? The ruins. The tech. The whispers in my head, they weren't alien. Or human. They were older. They want to wake up. Reed stared at him. Is that what you found in Sector Delta 9? Kane nodded. And that's why they locked me away. I didn't just find a secret. I became part of it. In the distance, a sleek ship descended quietly. A shadow moved near it. The widow stepped out. Reed couldn't believe his eyes. You made it. She ran to Kane and took his hand. You remembered, she whispered. He looked at her gently. I never forgot. They boarded the ship. The engines hummed. As they lifted off, the ground below began to crack. The lab collapsed into itself. Whatever was sleeping under Lab 9 wasn't sleeping anymore. The tunnel walls were old, built long ago under a different city. Before aliens came. Before the war. Before children like Kale were ever imagined. Zyra ran with him in her arms, feet hitting the cold floor. Her heart pounded, not just from fear of being hunted, but because Kale was changing. She could feel it. His body was warm, too warm, not from fever, but from something inside, like energy looking for a way out. Behind them, distant explosions shook the tunnel. The government had found Marcus. Maybe worse. Zyra didn't cry. She didn't break. She just ran faster. They reached a small steel door hidden behind crates. Marcus had shown her this place once. Told her, if you ever need to disappear, go here. No cameras. No trackers. Just silence. Inside it was a dead room. No signal. No light. Just stone and old metal. Zyra laid Kale down gently. He was awake now but quiet. His silver blue eyes glowed softly in the dark. "Are you hurt?" she asked. He shook his head. "No. But I hear her again." Zyra's breath stopped. "She's calling me," Kale whispered. "She's scared." "The hybrid?" Zyra asked. "Behind Marcus's door?" Kale nodded. "She's not just one. She's part of me." Zyra stared at her son. She remembered the tests Marcus had shown her. The mixed DNA. The rapid neural development. She had carried him through a war zone, thinking he was just lucky to survive. But now she understood. He was never just lucky. He was born different, made from two species, two worlds, and maybe something more. Suddenly, Kale sat up straight. His eyes turned fully white. His fingers curled. His breathing slowed, but the air around him began to vibrate. Zyra rushed to him. "Kale!" But his voice echoed strangely. "She's afraid. They're taking her." Then his body jerked back. The room shook. Far across the city, in Marcus's lab, the locked metal door began to glow. The creature inside, the hybrid female, was screaming again. But not in pain. She was answering Kale's call. Back in the tunnel, Kale's body lifted 2 inches off the floor. Lights burst from his skin, soft pulses of energy, moving like waves. Zyra backed away, her mouth open. This wasn't just power. It was communication. A link. Kale whispered words in a language Zyra didn't know. Words that didn't sound human or alien. And then he stopped. He collapsed. Zyra ran to him. "Kale, can you hear me?" He blinked slowly. Color returned to his eyes. "I saw her," he said. "She's alone. They put her in a dark place. Cold machines. Needles. She's not angry anymore. She just wants it to stop." Zyra held him tightly. "Who did this to her?" Kale's voice trembled. "Humans. A long time ago. Before the war even started." Zyra's blood ran cold. "They tried to make peace," Kale said, "by building it in a lab. A child. Like me. But they failed." Zyra understood now. Marcus hadn't just found the first hybrid, the government had made her. A secret experiment. A forgotten project. Buried. Abandoned. But she lived. Broken. Alone. And now, her pain echoed inside Zyra's son. Suddenly, a voice came from the tunnel behind them. Mechanical. Cold. Human. Target located. Hold position. Zyra grabbed Kale. Soldiers. Too soon. She looked around. There was no way out except one. Kale stood slowly beside her. "Mama," he said. "Let me try." She froze. "What do you mean?" "I can stop them." "No," she said quickly. "You're just a child." He looked at her. Calm, clear-eyed, ancient. "No," he said. "I'm more." The soldiers entered, weapons raised. "Stand down," one yelled. But Kale stepped forward. His hands opened, and the room filled with light. Walls shook. Guns jammed. Radios went silent. The soldiers froze in place, not dead, just paused. Held by something invisible. Zyra stared in shock. Kale looked at them, then looked at her. "I didn't hurt them," he said. "I just made them forget." Zyra fell to her knees, holding his arms. "What are you becoming?" Kale didn't answer. But behind him, a glowing mark appeared on the wall. A symbol neither human nor alien. A new language. A new beginning. Or a warning. It started with a single message. A whisper in the static of a hacked signal. Zyra had spent 2 nights hiding in the deep underground sector. Kale sat beside her, drawing glowing symbols in the dust. His power pulsed softly around them now, not wild anymore, but focused. And then the signal came. He's alive. Marcus is being moved. The message ended with coordinates and a time. Zyra stared at the screen. No sender. No name. Just a risk. She closed her eyes, thinking of the man who gave them safety, warmth, trust. A man who broke the law to protect aliens, and never asked for anything in return. Now he was locked in a black site, and the government wouldn't keep him alive for long. Kale looked at her. "Are we going to get him?" he asked. Zyra didn't answer right away, but in her eyes, something had changed. She wasn't just a mother anymore. She was a fighter. That night, Zyra entered the city shadows again. But this time, she didn't run. She walked toward danger. The facility was hidden behind an old tech lab. On the surface, it looked like a research building, tall glass, blinking lights, guards in suits. But below it was a cage. A prison for those EarthGov didn't want the public to see. Zyra had no weapons. She didn't need any. Kale was her shield and maybe her sword. At the gate, Zyra walked straight into the path of a patrol drone, scanned her, then paused. The system glitched, and for 3 full seconds the machine froze midair. Kale stepped from the shadows and touched its metal side. It dropped gently to the ground, offline. He smiled softly. "Still works." Inside the facility, alarms were silent. Kale had bent the system without breaking it. Security doors opened, one by one, with only the sound of their own breath. Soldiers passed them without seeing them. Kale wasn't invisible. He was simply unseen. "I'm not changing reality," he whispered. "I'm just telling it to look away." They reached the lower levels. Here the air changed, cold, dry, full of steel and secrets. Zyra stopped outside a thick vault door. Inside Marcus. She pressed her hand to the lockpad. It blinked red. Kale walked up, placed his palm beside hers. The pad flickered, then turned green. The door hissed open. Inside, Marcus sat on the floor, hands chained, face bruised. But he smiled when he saw her. "I knew you'd come," he said, voice rough. Zyra knelt beside him, unlocking the restraints. "You shouldn't have stayed behind," she said. He gave a weak laugh. "It bought you time. That's all I wanted." He looked at Kale, and stopped breathing for a second. The boy's eyes now held depth, power, sadness, wisdom. "Marcus," Kale said softly, "we don't have much time. They're bringing her here." Zyra blinked. "Who?" Marcus looked pale. "The hybrid," he said. "The first one. They captured her again. She's coming back. This time. They want to use her." Suddenly, red lights. The silent alarm. Someone had noticed. Footsteps echoed above. Zyra pulled Marcus up. "We're getting out. Now." They moved fast, following Kale through another path. Not the way they came, but one Marcus once used for escape test subjects. Above them, soldiers shouted, "Lock it down. They're inside." As they ran through the last corridor, Zyra felt a pressure in the air. Heavy, sharp, like something ancient had opened its eyes. Kale stopped mid-step. "She's awake," he whispered. "She's close." From the far end of the hallway, a second vault door began to hiss open on its own. Light poured out, cold, blue, flickering like a broken star. And from inside that room, she stepped out, tall, thin, skin glowing in waves, hair like static. The first hybrid. Her eyes locked with Kale's, and the world around them fell silent. Zyra moved in front of Kale, but the hybrid raised her hand gently. "No harm," she said. Her voice was cracked, like old stone. "He called me." Kale stepped forward, without fear. "You're not alone anymore," he said. The hybrid knelt slowly in front of him. "I wasn't meant to live," she whispered. "But you were born." Zyra watched, frozen. Even Marcus couldn't speak. Two beings, made of war and peace, now faced each other. Then, the hybrid turned her eyes to Zyra. "You raised him well," she said softly. "He has love in him. That makes him strong." Behind them, shouts and boots echoed again. Time was running out. Zyra looked at the hybrid. "Are you coming with us?" The hybrid looked back at the room she had escaped, then nodded once. "Yes," she said. "This time I choose." They called her mad. For years they locked her away, whispered behind her back, laughed at her silence, feared her truth. But she was never mad. She was just early. Now the sky above the valley was filled with motion. Not ships, not satellites, but answers, shapes older than history, lights that bent gravity, echoes of thoughts traveling faster than time. They came not as conquerors, but as watchers. And they came because one human finally listened. Reed stood still at the edge of the awakening sight, his skin glowing faintly with knowledge that no human had ever carried before. Inside his mind, thousands of voices, not shouting, not fighting, just remembering. He could see timelines, see lies unraveling, and feel the pulse of something ancient inside him. Captain Kane stepped beside him, weaker now, his borrowed time fading, his journey nearly complete. You saw it all, didn't you? Reed nodded. Too much, but not enough to turn away. The widow joined them. She no longer looked like a prisoner, no longer broken. Her eyes were sharp, proud, free. They won't be able to hide anymore, she said. You've become the signal they feared. Above them, the watchers circled silently. Somewhere deep in the core of Lab 9, the ancient systems had activated. Across the galaxy, old ruins lit up like memory beacons. What was once myth was now fact. Back on the alien capital world, news spread like fire. The human is still alive. The widow escaped. The signal was real. Lab 9 has been breached. The High Council tried to bury the reports, tried to say it was a hoax, a tech failure, a hallucination, but the truth had already left the planet. Reed's memory, his vision, was now broadcast, translated and shared. Millions saw the same images, the whispers, the watchers, the games played in shadows. For the first time, they believed her. The mad woman was right. Reed returned to Earth not as a soldier, but as a warning. He stood before a joint council of humans and aliens. Thousands gathered to hear what no one dared say out loud. He didn't use big words, didn't shout. He simply told the truth. They shaped us through fear, through war, through silence. But they never expected one of us to listen. He paused. Now we remember, and remembering is the first step to becoming free. In the days that followed, many questions rose. Some wanted to fight the Watchers. Some wanted to worship them. Others wanted to forget again. But Reed didn't care about sides anymore, because he had seen what came after memory. Choice. Kane passed away quietly, days later. Not in pain, just finished. He died holding the widow's hand, finally remembered not as a weapon, but as a man who tried to warn them all. They buried him near the ruins of Lab 9, not with a stone, but with a message. He listened first. As for the widow, she disappeared. Some say she joined the Watchers. Others believe she returned to the tower, waiting again for the next one brave enough to listen. And Reed? He became many things. A bridge between species, a speaker of truths, a reminder that even in the darkest corners of silence, someone, somewhere, must choose to hear. Because lies fade, power breaks, but memory, real memory, awakens everything. They said she was mad. They said he was dead. They said the war was over. They were wrong about all of it.